The National Congress approved the increase in the number of federal deputies. This is absurd. They should have reduced the number of federal deputies. And the National Congress went ahead and approved 18 more federal deputy seats. 513 is already too many people. That's a lot of people. 100, 200, 300, 400, 513 federal deputies. They went there and approved it to 531 federal deputies. That's 18 more seats. So what did Lula do? He went there and vetoed it. He said, no, people, there are already too many federal deputies. We should reduce the number of federal deputies, not increase it. Lula went there and vetoed it. I wouldn't be surprised if they quietly put that veto up too, to overturn Lula's veto and approve 18 more federal deputy seats. How much is that going to cost? How many millions per month, Andrea Gonçalves? Many millions per month, which we will have to pay. We need to watch closely, and I will, since I wouldn't be surprised if they quietly overturn Lula's veto at night. Then a Bolsonaro supporter will come and say, oh, Andrea Gonçalves, it was the Supreme Court that ordered this. That's not true, people. What happened? The Supreme Court said that there had to be an adjustment and redistribution of the 513 federal deputy seats among the states according to the new, most up-to-date population census released by IBGE, where some states became more populous and some states less populous, and that there should then be an adjustment in the number of federal representatives from each state. So what did the National Congress find easier to do? Create more seats instead of doing the redistribution. So the Supreme Court didn't order the creation of more seats. The Supreme Court said to redistribute the seats by state. I'm saying this because many Bolsonaro supporters voted for and approved this situation of increasing the number of federal deputies, and now they're justifying that they did it. It wasn't because they wanted to, it was because the Supreme Court ordered the creation of the seats. So that's a lie. That's typical of that cowardly, spineless parliamentarian who doesn't have the courage to take responsibility and stand by their position. It's like the electoral fund increase. For example, the rise in the electoral fund. They increased the electoral fund, and Flavio Bolsonaro voted to increase the electoral fund, and now he's trying to dodge the subject. No, baby, that's right. Let's take a look here at some legislative proposals too. And that's what Flavio Bolsonaro voted for, and what he's now trying, like every spineless Bolsonaro supporter, to hide from Brazilian society. But we are here to show the truth. Here, look at what Flavio Bolsonaro voted for before running for president. Look here, the increase in the election fund to 5.7 billion, proposed in PL3 of 2021 under the 2022 Budget Guidelines Law. In 2021, he voted in favor of increasing the electoral fund. Congress approved the boost to the electoral slush fund from 2 billion to almost 6 billion, and Flavio voted in favor. Almost 3 times more in the middle of the pandemic, with 19 million Brazilians going hungry. Flavio voted in favor. Flavio acted in defense of the military police officer accused of killing a 5-year-old girl. Senator Flavio Bolsonaro signed the defense. Look, he was the lawyer for the military police officer accused of killing Ana Clara Machado, a 5-year-old girl in Niterói in 2021. The child was hit by a rifle shot while playing with her 2-year-old brother right at her doorstep. In 2024, Flavio Bolsonaro filed an appeal with the Superior Court of Justice to prevent the case from being tried by a jury. The attempt was rejected, and the police officer is still awaiting trial.
Yeah.
Pension reform, constitutional amendment proposal number 6 of 2019. Flavio voted in favor. He voted for approval, and he spoke at the podium calling the reform a historic moment that will take Brazil to another level. The constitutional amendment increased the minimum retirement age, raised contribution rates, and eliminated retirement based on years of contribution because it started requiring a minimum age. The reform targets the poorest while preserving the privileges of the military and special categories. Flavio voted in favor of the salary freeze proposed constitutional amendment 186 of 2019, all under Bolsonaro's government, all of it on the workers' backs. Year 2021, he voted in favor. Created the fiscal austerity mechanism that allows for freezing public servants' salaries, suspending civil service entrance exams, and blocking career progressions. Flavio voted in favor. Flavio granted an amnesty of 23 billion reais. The proposal is proposed constitutional amendment 9 of 2023. Voted in favor. Flavio Bolsonaro voted in favor of a constitutional amendment that forgave fines and electoral irregularities of parties, including the PL. It is estimated that the amount forgiven reaches 23 billion reais. Appointment of Marielle Franco's murderer to the Rio de Janeiro State Court of Auditors. Proposal, nomination of Domingos Brazão to the Rio Court of Auditors. Voted in favor. She voted for the nomination of Domingos Brazão, who would later be indicted as one of those who ordered the murder of Councilwoman Marielle Franco and driver Anderson Gomez. Tiradentes Medal for Militia Member in 2005. Without a direct vote, while serving as a state representative, Flavio Bolsonaro awarded the highest honor of the Rio de Janeiro State Legislative Assembly to police officer Adriano da Nóbrega. He was later identified as the head of a militia in Rio de Janeiro and was killed in a police operation in 2020. So Flavio Bolsonaro here, guys, is total chaos. And we can't forget, right, that he fought hard, Flavio Bolsonaro, to approve the privatization of the beaches. Do you remember? All that mess about privatizing or not privatizing. Flavio Bolsonaro was one of those who led the fight for it to be approved. The privatization of the beaches. It almost happened, but in the end, it didn't. But he was one of the main advocates there, pushing for the approval for the privatization of the beaches in Brazil. So we can't forget about these situations. The pension reform was a total mess. Total. There are a lot of people who are going to fall out of their chairs when they apply for their retirement benefits or for a survivor's pension. And they'll find out that they won't be entitled to it, or that they'll have to work longer, or that they'll have to wait longer because they won't meet the minimum age to retire. All because of the neglect and all the harm that was done in the pension reform. And it even changed the way the calculation is done. You will receive less than you would have if you had retired before November 2019 when it was approved. Bolsonaro's pension reform, which was the second document he submitted to the National Congress after he became president, elected in 2018. The first document was a gun decree allowing Brazilians to have guns. And then the second document was exactly the pension reform, a total mess. And here, my dear, there's no use trying to fool anyone. There's no use, because you're not fooling anyone here. You won't. Did you understand? Did you get it? You only supported the income tax exemption because you had no choice. He voted, I don't know if you remember, in favor of not removing him from office and of suspending Chiquinho Brazão's detention. Chiquinho Brazão was sentenced to almost 80 years in prison for the murder of Marielle Franco, a city councilwoman from Rio de Janeiro. Chiquinho Brazão was a federal deputy and he was arrested. So, it's part of parliamentary immunity that the respective house to which the deputy or senator belongs can suspend the pretrial detention of a deputy who for some reason ends up being arrested. And that passed on the floor. And he was in the United States and made a point of recording a video saying that Chiquinho Brazão's detention should be lifted and that he shouldn't be removed from office too. Yeah, who? Flavio Bolsonaro. So there's no way, right, guys? Right? Flavio and Eduardo Bolsonaro. Both of them spoke out against the removal and against keeping Chiquinho Brazão in prison, who is now convicted. Chiquinho Brazão, Domingos Brazão, and Rivaldo Barbosa, and others, especially the killer, Rony Lessa. Rony Lessa got 90 years in prison, and they got almost 80 years in prison. And they tried there, to see if they could get Chiquinho Brazão released from prison. Notably, Eduardo Bolsonaro in the Chamber of Deputies, with support from Flavio Bolsonaro as well. So it seems like these people like criminals, right? So that makes it hard. And things keep falling apart. Meanwhile, Cristiano Zanin gives his decision and says that there will be no replacement of the current governor of Rio de Janeiro. The current governor of Rio de Janeiro is Ricardo Couto, president of the Court of Justice. Who did he replace? The then removed from office and now ineligible Claudio Castro, who will soon have to be arrested. I put Claudio Castro in jail. I don't know who, because what is he doing out of jail, right? The former governor of Rio de Janeiro. Claudio Castro appointed his vice governor as a counselor to the Court of Auditors, so he didn't have a vice governor. Who was supposed to take over? The president of the Legislative Assembly, but he's in jail and has already been removed from office. Rodrigo Bacela is in the same group as Claudio Castro and Flavio Bolsonaro, another criminal in the story. Yeah, so there was no successor. So who was next? The president of the Court of Justice, who took over the position of governor of Rio de Janeiro. Then they held an election there and put Douglas Ruas, who is from Claudio Castro's political group, to see if he would take over the government of Rio de Janeiro. Then Cristiano Zanin said the act had already occurred. There was no line of succession since the Legislative Assembly lacked a president, so the Court of Justice president was appointed. He stated they would not revisit the issue. He will continue being the governor until the Supreme Court decides whether there will be an indirect or direct election. And I believe it will be direct. Because the reason for Claudio Castro's removal was electoral. So a direct election is appropriate where the people of Rio de Janeiro will choose their new governor for this term, an interim term until December 31st of this year, when the new governor elected in October takes office in January. Now, through elections now, the Supreme Court will still decide on this. The Supreme Court may even decide that the President of the Assembly or the Court of Justice continues in this interim term. For a matter of convenience, and much more than convenience, no, that's the term. Will the Supreme Court decide on justice, whatever happens? Of savings for the people of Rio de Janeiro? Instead of having this back and forth, then it changes, more is spent, someone else comes in, brings in other people, and then it turns into that mess that will cause losses for the people of Rio de Janeiro. But who will decide that is the federal Supreme Court. And just by not putting Douglas Ruas there, guys, it's already great. Because unfortunately, the Legislative Assembly of Rio de Janeiro, from what it seems, does not have the ethical, moral, or even, I would say, legal standing to take over the government of Rio de Janeiro. Claudio Castro should also be held accountable soon. Shall we listen to Freixo's statement? A quick note about this situation here. All Bolsonaro supporters are involved.
Hey everyone, news from Rio de Janeiro, the best mess on the planet. Claudio Castro's gang, the governor who just had his mandate revoked and became ineligible because of an action we took. He wants the new election to be indirect so that his gang, which currently controls the Legislative Assembly, stays in power and keeps doing everything they've done. Well, the governor of Rio de Janeiro right now, who is an interim governor, the president of the Court of Justice, Ricardo Couto, has made more than 600 layoffs, folks, pay attention. 600 layoffs in the short period of time he's been governing Rio de Janeiro. Did you notice any disruption in services, anything? No. More than that, he's reviewing contracts for overbilling, overpricing, waste, irregularities. These are the things that have been found. So beyond the 600 layoffs, these contracts are being reviewed. 80 billion reais in these absolutely suspicious contracts being reviewed right now. I filed the lawsuit that prevailed and made Claudio Castro ineligible. And I will keep fighting in court so that Rio de Janeiro can have direct elections and so we can restore democracy and treat every resident of the state with dignity.
Yeah, guys, let me tell you, okay? Ricardo Couto is right here. Look, he's the president of the Court of Justice. The one next to him looking up is Douglas Ruas, who wanted to take over the government of Rio de Janeiro, a state representative who is now the president of the Legislative Assembly and is from the same group as Claudio Castro, who has already been removed from office, is ineligible, and soon will become a prisoner. And Cristiano Zanin said no, that he won't take over. The one who stays on is the judge, president of the Court of Justice, Ricardo Couto, who is conducting a thorough investigation into Claudio Castro's government. He is going through all the procurement contracts with a fine-tooth comb, letting go of a lot of people from contracts where no work was being done. It was just a way to hand out patronage jobs. And he is uncovering other schemes, other situations that should soon be revealed to all of us. The trail of banditry, corruption, violence, and involvement with militias and criminal organizations is being cleaned up right now. And highlighting that his ally, Rodrigo Bacella, the former president of the Legislative Assembly, who was also removed from office and is now in prison, is an ally of Claudio Castro's political group, which at first was involved in the action during the process, obstruction of justice, and was arrested because evidence was found of involvement with militias and of favoring the Red Command. Claudio Castro's group, which also includes the same group as Flavio Bolsonaro. Why do I say this? Because Rodrigo Bacella is the one in prison. He was Bolsonaro's chosen one. He even received a medal from Bolsonaro and everything. He was the one chosen to succeed Claudio Castro. That's why Claudio Castro appointed his vice as a member of the Court of Auditors to create a vacancy so that he then would step down from the position as he did. But Brazil's Superior Electoral Court didn't validate it and removed him anyway. When he stepped down, since there was no vice, the one who would take over would be the president of the Legislative Assembly, Rodrigo Bacella, but they were caught off guard because Rodrigo Bacella was arrested. He was removed from his position as state deputy, then he was arrested, released, and now he has been arrested again. So there was no way to put him in to succeed Claudio Castro because it was him. And he even already had the blessing of Bolsonaro's allies, of Bolsonaro and his sons, especially with the alliance with Flavio Bolsonaro. You see, it's a mess. Nothing good ever comes out when you mix with these people. Federal Deputy Otonio de Paula also spoke about Cristiano Zanin's decision. Let's see what he says here. Pay attention.
Guys, wonderful news for the people of Rio de Janeiro. And now, with Minister Zanin's decision, the acting governor, Judge Ricardo Couto, he remains as the interim governor of Rio de Janeiro. Douglas Ruas, the new president of the Rio de Janeiro Legislative Assembly and candidate for governor of the state of Rio de Janeiro, who represents Claudio Castro's gang, which has political support from Flavio Bolsonaro and the Bolsonaro family, who unfortunately are sponsoring this corruption in Rio de Janeiro. Because if they were against it, they would have broken ties with this group a long time ago, the group that ruined the state of Rio de Janeiro. But no, Flavio has ties to this group. Anyway, Ruas represents this political group that ruined Rio de Janeiro, and he wanted to take over since he was elected president of the Rio de Janeiro Legislative Assembly. Minister Zanin didn't accept it. He said that Judge Ricardo Couto remains governor. This is a blessing for us in Rio de Janeiro. Why? Because now it means that the dismissals that are happening will keep happening. There are thousands. The investigations, the close scrutiny of the public procurement process, which actually conceals this gang's massive corruption scheme, will keep happening. If Ruas sits in that chair, all of that is over. All those people who are being dismissed would come back. And the investigations, the close scrutiny of the public procurement process would end. Thank you, Minister Zanin. I thank you on behalf of the people of the state of Rio de Janeiro for not allowing the representative of this gang to take over the government of our state.
Yeah, but the boss has to go to jail, right? Put that up, my dear. Claudio Castro in jail. That has to happen. Agora. Now, another one also has to go to jail. It's the former governor of the federal district who also stepped down because he's already a pre-candidate for the Senate, which is Ibanez Rocha, another Bolsonaro supporter, who, by all indications, is involved up to his neck with the Banco Master fraud because he used BRB, the public bank, public money, to buy more than 12 billion Ries worth of bad shares from Banco Master. So for God's sake, people, there has to be justice. Otherwise, soon Ibanez might even get elected to the Senate. Claudio Castro can't, as he's already ineligible. But Ibanez Rocha isn't yet. It's a serious situation. Ibanez and Castro in jail now. Put them in, put them in, put them in. Don't leave me talking to myself. Don't leave me talking to myself. Please, please help me, help me. Meanwhile, let me tell you something here. You saw it, right, this past weekend? The attack on Donald Trump, Let's talk about it. But before we talk about it, I just want to make a side note here. I found it kind of strange. The guy is still alive. I'm not going to lie to you. Why, Andrea Gonçalves? Because the American police, they kill a lot. If you're armed, then you're already dead. And the guy even shot a federal officer there. But he was wearing a vest. That's why he didn't die. And he's alive. This guy is alive with a bunch of elite shooters in there to protect the president. And the guy made it out alive. So this attack could be a big fraud, right? I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, I'm not going to lie. It sounds really strange to me that the guy came out alive, the one who carried out the attack there. Because that's not the way the American police operate. The goal is to kill, especially in attacks against the president over there. But anyway, we're going to talk and I'll show you the scenes in a moment. But first, let me tell you something here. According to reports, Donald Trump is preparing a new package of harmful measures against Brazil. New heavy tariffs. There could be a Magnitsky Act. There could be visa suspensions. And the main thing is the tariffs. And all of this, why, Andre? All because of our PIX system. All because of Brass Street over there in Sao Paulo. They're saying it's harming the American economy. Look how absurd that is, guys. I keep wondering, where are these people? Where is Nicolas Ferreira to protect our PIX? Where is Tarcísio de Freitas to protect our PIX, our sovereignty? Where is Eduardo Bolsonaro? Where is Flavio Bolsonaro himself? Where are these people? They're all so quiet, so quiet.
Get out.
Get out, devil. Nilti, where are these people? Have you noticed they've been really quiet about this? Is another harmful package from Donald Trump coming soon? Mainly because he wants to put an end to PIX. But why, Andre? Because they're saying that PIX is harming the American branded cards, the credit cards we use everywhere here with the American brands, right? It's harming them because we're making a lot of PIX transfers and not using cards as much anymore. So where are these people to defend Brazil? Yeah, my dear, it's complicated. Complicated. Pedro Rousseff talked a little here about this situation. They're silent and quiet. Will they support Tranqueira or will they have the courage to stand up for the Brazilian people? What do you think? I think they'll have to take a stand. And that's urgent because we need to know who is a patriot and who is a traitor to the country. That's the situation. That's the situation right now. Aren't you going to defend PIX? PIX is ours. PIX belongs to Brazil. Are you going to be Tranqueira's bootlickers, America's lapdogs? What's up with that? Look at Pedro here saying a little something. Pay attention.
The United States is preparing something against Brazil, Orival.
It's already more or less decided that the tariff the United States should apply to Brazilian products could be around 30%. The reasons given are quite varied. They range from PIX, which according to them, the central bank ends up favoring PIX to the detriment of the United States financial transfer systems. They also accuse Brazil of intellectual property violations of using Rua 25 de Março.
It's impressive how we warn, but it seems like people don't understand. This latest statement from Donald Trump, which is basically a trade war against Brazil again. Now, the PIX that you use every day to buy your bread, your meat, and your beer is literally at risk. Now, the clothes you buy on Rua 25 de Março or at your local market have also become the main target of the orange guy from the United States. And you know what I find funny about this? It's that right now, Nicolas Ferreira and his whole gang of angry followers are absolutely silent. So those who always said that Bolsonaro was the creator of PIX, where are you now, Chupeta, defending your country? This is the biggest hypocrisy of all. They call themselves patriots, but when the big orange guy is here attacking us, the only ones who defend and fight back are us and President Lula. This is the moment when we have to see who is truly a patriot and who isn't. Because if we don't do something now, your picks and your little stands, look, they're going down the drain because of the big orange guy. Share this video because we have to show the truth to all Brazilians. Whether you're on the left or the right, now is a time for unity. And pay attention, whoever isn't with us, that means they're with them.
Exactly, guys. Because look, we have problems. I always talk about this with you. We have problems. Brazil has problems, yes, with ethics, with morals, with crime, even within politics, we do. But our problems, we are the ones who have to solve them. We, silly Brazilians, Brazilian sovereignty, we are the ones who have to solve them. And we cannot accept that Donald Trump, the Trumpist regime, wants to be a big boss or wants to treat us like a colony, like doormats or vassals of the Americans. Each with their own sovereignty and jurisdiction. And Donald Trump is not the sheriff of the world nor of Brazil. And Donald Trump, he wants to control our economy. He wants to control our Brazil. We know very well that he is also interested in stealing from Brazil, especially when it comes to rare earths, right? I explained it very well, explained it clearly to you regarding the contract that Ronaldo Caiado made with the American company. I've already told you this contract might even exist. And it might even have been made. But if it doesn't have the signatures of federal government representatives, it's worthless. Because it's a matter of sovereignty. Rare earths are a matter of sovereignty, which falls under federal jurisdiction. And besides, minerals in Brazil belong to the federal government. I have already explained all of this to you in the previous live stream. So they want our riches. They want to get rid of PIX because according to them, PIX is causing them losses. Screw them, let them deal with it. Now, what do we need to know? It's the position of our representatives. No matter if you're right wing or left wing, what is your representative's position? It's a position of a true patriot defending our sovereignty, defending PIX, defending the people and Brazilians. Or is he a fake patriot who claims to be a patriot, but is actually a bootlicking lapdog of the Trump administration? You have to find out the position of your representative, whether in the Senate, in the Chamber of Deputies, or even the presidential candidate. You have to know what your representative's position is. And that's why I say there are a lot of people out there who are tucking their tails between their legs and staying quiet. Nicolas Ferreira isn't talking about this issue. Claudio Bolsonaro will have to face this situation. Tarcísio, and all those people who say they want to be your representative, because there are several things we can negotiate. We can disagree, and that's okay. That's part of democracy, disagreement, political stances, ideological ones. Different, contradictory, that's okay. Political pluralism, as I always tell you, is one of the foundations of our Constitution. It's all right. Now, there are points where there's no room for disagreement. In this one, for example, it's a matter of sovereignty. Or do you want to end PIX? To go back the TED, the doc where you used to pay a fee every time? Or else you'll have to use a credit card and keep paying fees to the bank all the time. Whether it's a Brazilian bank or an American one, it's a matter of intelligence. And knowing what's best for you. So this is an issue that brings the right and the left together, which is about protecting Brazil, about protecting our wealth and the institutions that bring benefits to ourselves, the Brazilian people, regardless of political party affiliation. That's why, remember, PIX belongs to Brazil. And we can't give that up. So this is a situation where you also need to know where your representatives stand. And maybe that's why so many politicians out there, right, Nicolas? Right, Tarcísio? Or Flavio? They're being really quiet, aren't they? Because it shows that they are true traitors to the country and not patriots like they claim to be. That's the truth, okay? How's the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule going, Andrea Gonçalves? What's the situation? I think things will move forward now, right? The joint committee should be announced by Hugo Motta this week. The joint committee, okay? And the rapporteur, who is he going to choose as the rapporteur in the joint committee, right? Actually, it's a special committee that will analyze the merits of the proposed constitutional amendment that will end the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule. All right, this is going to be a huge milestone in Brazil, everyone. This victory will be as big as the income tax exemption for those earning up to 5,000 reais approved by President Lula's government. All right, the opposition, especially the PL, are going crazy, right? They're freaking out, saying the proposals are terrible. That Reginaldo Lopez's proposal, I explained it to you in detail on Friday. There's also Erica Hilton's proposal, which they say are horrible and all that. He didn't mention the proposal I also explained to you, the one that establishes for every 5 days worked, you get 2 days off. He didn't mention that one, did he? So I kept thinking. The one who said that was Sostenes Cavalcante, leader of the PL in the Chamber of Deputies. If both are so bad, then let Lula's proposal move forward, right? It's even better because Lula's proposal is being fast-tracked. It will have to be approved soon, faster anyway, right, guys? That's not the issue. The issue is it's from the left. If it's from the left, they want to blow it up. For them, the worse, the better, because it would be a huge victory for Lula's government again, just like it was with the income tax exemption. Where? Going to the floor, which is what they want to try to block. Once it goes to the floor, they won't be able to vote against it. Why? Because there are elections and whoever votes against it will very likely not even get reelected. So they're going to try to block it in every possible way. And this special committee is very important because unlike the Constitution and Justice Committee, where the proposal was approved, the CCJ approved its admissibility. What does that mean? That the proposal does not violate the federal constitution. Now, the analysis in the special committee will be about the merits. It will be about the subject matter. What will really count? What will the situation actually be like? And we have to keep an eye out because the PL group, the Bolsonaro supporters, will try to disrupt the process, the proceedings, and its approval in every possible way. And for that, what will they do? They'll add those so-called legislative riders to try to hinder the proposal. The law is clear about some ridiculous situations like, for example, Nicolas Ferreira's amendment proposing a boss subsidy. Nicolas Ferreira is against Bolsa Familia. For the most needy families, Nicolas Ferreira voted against the gas voucher, worth 100 reais. And now he wants a boss allowance? It's a lot of cynicism, isn't it, guys? It's really cynical, this situation. So we have to keep an eye on all of this. I'll keep up with it. I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll share everything with you here, whether it's happening or not. All right, shall we watch a statement here from Hugo Motta? Let's take a look here. And I have an impression about what he's saying here. Pay attention.
Statement from the President of the Constitution and Justice Committee, Congressman Leo Lomanto Jr., from the Rapporteur of the 6x1 PEC, the PEC on reducing working hours, Congressman Paulo Azzi, and from the author of this PEC, Congressman Reginaldo Lopez. We have completed the stage of the Constitution and Justice Committee by unanimously approving the admissibility of this PEC, which will undoubtedly deliver a great advancement to the country's working class, which is the reduction of working hours. We have advocated for the process to go through a PEC precisely so that the debate can be broadened and all points of view on the matter can be brought to light.
Thank you, President Hugo Motta. It was a great pleasure to congratulate Your Excellency for prioritizing this debate of fundamental importance for the Brazilian working class.
President Hugo Motta, this is a historic day for Brazilian workers, and for sure, this is a non-ideological policy. It is a foundational policy. It is a win-win policy. The whole Brazilian society will benefit.
First, I want to congratulate Congressman Leo Lomanto for his brilliant leadership of the Constitution and Justice Committee, and at the same time for having the proposal voted on with the urgency President Hugo Motta had requested. And under your leadership, I believe that as quickly as possible, this matter will be ready here to be voted on and approved on the floor of the Chamber of Deputies.
Interesting, right, folks? Do you know what's going to happen with this proposal? It will be approved. First, because it's an election year, but they're going to do what they did during the approval of the income tax exemption. I could already tell from this video. What did they do, Andre? when the government fought in every possible way for the approval of the income tax exemption to pass in the committees because they didn't want it to be approved. They didn't want it. The right and the far right, the Bolsonaro supporters, they didn't want the income tax exemption to be approved. Then they tried to block it. They obstructed, requested a review, did everything they're doing now with the constitutional amendment to end the 6 days on, 1 day off work week. They're doing everything. But when it went to the floor, what did they do? I will never forget this. At no point did they say the proposal was from Lula. Then everyone tried to take credit for it. Every right-wing federal deputy, Hugo Motta, everyone tried to take credit for it and didn't even mention that the proposal, that the project was from Lula's government. They wanted to take credit for approving it themselves. It's the same thing they're going to do now. They'll try to interfere and keep it from reaching the floor, but it will go through. There's no stopping it since it's an election year. When it goes to the floor, then they're going to do everything they can to hide that the proposal came from Lula's government. They're going to hide in every possible way that the proposal is from the government, that the proposal is from the left, and they're going to take credit for themselves, make speeches saying they're the ones doing it, they're the ones approving it. Even though right now, many of them are trying to block the process exactly so it doesn't reach the floor. Because if it gets there, they'll have to vote in favor, whether they like it or not. The same thing they did with the income tax exemption. And now there are a lot of people spreading lies. Shall we take a look at some of these lies here? Well, these are claims you need to know are false. Pay attention here. Go ahead, my dear.
Are you going to close on the weekend?
Is there not going to be any business on Sunday?
Will I have nowhere to buy bread now?
No, guys, stop it. That's already fake news. Look, here's how it is. The bill Lula sent to Congress reduces the work week to 40 hours.
At most, and it guarantees 2 days of rest for the worker, but you'll still be able to go to the movies on Sundays. Whoever wants to go eat at a restaurant, whoever wants to go to the gas station to fill up the car, there won't be any problem. Businesses won't stop. Do you know why? What was decided is that the worker will work at most 5 days a week. So a worker who works from Monday to Friday won't work on the weekend. But then the bakery, the market, the mall will be able to hire a substitute to work that weekend or change the worker's schedule to work on different days. The important thing is that there are 2 days of rest. Nothing is going to close. That's just us putting ideas in our heads because we don't want workers to have more rights. Guaranteeing 2 days of rest per week is the minimum, folks. It won't harm anyone's life. On the contrary, it will give back quality time to Brazilian workers.
Look at this. People say, oh, Andre, it will cause unemployment. Actually, it will create more jobs. That's what's going to happen, folks. Look at what Federal Deputy Lindenberg Farias explained here. It's going to create jobs. It's going to bring in more people, more positions for more work. Take a look.
Deputy Lucas, of course, jobs are going to increase since you're reducing this workload, so employment will go up. Do you remember that issue about domestic workers? Do you remember, Juliana? Didn't they say that? If you make a law giving the same rights to domestic workers, Bolsonaro, in fact, was the only congressman who voted against it. Will there be unemployment among domestic workers? That didn't happen. You can rest assured that won't happen. We will have more jobs. Congressman Lucas, you mentioned hospitals and public security. These are areas I care about a lot. If you work in a hospital 6 days on and 1 day off, when you are responsible for other people's health, the same goes for public safety. I'm convinced that this is a civilizational advance and that Congress will approve it. Congressman Lucas, of course, employment.
And it's interesting how these people lie so much, guys. A Bolsonarist congressman went to debate with Lindenberg Farias and talked about public security. Come on, for God's sake, guys, this is basic law. We're talking about changing work hours, changing employment status. We're not talking about police officers, military police officer, civil police officer, federal police officer, public servant. They have their own system. They have specific shifts. They're not covered by Brazil's labor code. CLT. In fact, many already work a 24/72 shift. It's a shift that allows you to rest. We know this very well, especially in the public security field. They throw out these scenarios to create fear and panic in people. These changes are for employees under the CLT system. Workers with formal labor contracts are the ones affected. public servants and police personnel are statutory employees. They're not under the CLT system. They have their own set of rules, which is governed by the public servant statute. So they spread this information. What will happen is that they will have to have people to work on the 2 days that the person will be entitled to have off. Or they could even pay the worker for additional overtime if they want to work extra hours. But the important thing is that the person has the option to take at least 2 days off a week, isn't it? So like there are some business owners who are already testing this. And one from Minas Gerais said it was a pleasant surprise because absences decreased, sick notes decreased, and people worked more willingly. Production increased on the schedule where the person gets 2 days off because people are even happier at work, folks, right? So put it there. End the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule now, which is very important. And it will be a milestone in the achievement of rights and guarantees for workers in Brazil. And it won't bankrupt anyone. This story of, oh, it's going to break, that's just nonsense. It won't bankrupt anyone. Productivity will increase. People will be happier at work. They will produce more. They will miss work less, present fewer doctor's notes. There will even be fewer problems, including psychological ones. They will have a longer period to rest, right? So write it down. End of the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule now. And like the live stream, okay? It's very